Hi, this is Stan and Rodney, and this is the Crow's Nest Railroad. It's a small 5-inch narrow gauge railway around my urban home here in the Arizona desert. I thought maybe you'd be interested in a then versus now video to talk about how far we've come in the last 3 years here. So if that sounds interesting, stay tuned. All right, let's head out near the front yard. Well, we're here at the starting point. I thought I should probably say that this house, like many houses, would be the least appropriate property to have a ride-on railroad. But if there's a will, there's a way. Here we are at the starting point. How this all began was, even though I was used to 7.5-inch gauge equipment, which I run at the club, that wasn't really appropriate for a small property here in an urban area. So I needed something that would handle tight turns and be lightweight equipment that I could manage. So it seemed like 1 inch to the foot scale was just perfect. However, I did upsize it just a little bit, and so the 5-inch rail gauge is really a narrow gauge. So my equipment is a little bit larger than 1 inch to the foot scale. This is the driveway. This is where a temporary track gets laid across so that I can have a loop. So let's just walk around, and I'll try and throw in some before pictures back in like the summer of 2021. That's where I started laying tracks seriously. And so let's just walk the line and see how things have changed. Not a lot different here on these bushes. They've grown a little bigger, a little taller in the front, and I think the yard was basically the same. So here you can see the rail has to go across this pad, make this sharp turn, and I thought, well, maybe the HOA will get upset and make me tear it out, but so far that has not happened. All right, coming into the side yard here. This is all nice and green. Things have really developed. So I can run the track straight up along the house here. And before, there used to be a little, kind of a neglected garden area here, and I had to tear that all out. And my wife really wanted a raised garden that she could sit on the edge and do gardening and stuff like that. So we did some planting here. Got these cool bushes going here, and I made this raised garden. And in fact, a couple weeks ago I had to build a platform on top to shield what was left of our tomato plants for the season from the sun. This side yard now gets absolute full sun in the afternoon in the summer because this tree is gone. I had to cut it down this year in the spring. It just did not survive the really nasty hot summer we had last year. It was a beautiful tree, and it just shaded all of this track. So now the rail gets the sun on it. Not so much in the morning here, but in the afternoon. And my wife can putter around here in the garden, although we've got to plant some summer garden plants now. We've got some strawberries that are surviving, and the tomato plants have been good, but they're just about done for the year. And those are our grapes. Grapevine likes to grow more than it likes to produce grapes. And so one of the first things we had to do was move this little wall here. And so we had to beat the post out of there that I'd put in some years earlier, so that this whole section of track could run straight through. And this is an elevation of about 2.5 or 3% between the front in the backyard. So when I have a full train here on the side, it's hard to start the train on the hill with a lot of wheel slip. Coming around the corner, I try to get some speed going, especially if I've got passengers. You know, an adult or two on the train plus me is pretty much a max load, and you got to be moving coming up the hill. So if I have a heavy train, I can't just start here on the hill. So moving around here, down through the gate, you can see what a nice canopy we have in here. Sort of a tunnel of branches and leaves. And there's our back porch. The walkway comes around. And this area in here is all filled in. And I put another raised garden in over here. And I'll try to include some footage from the video from 3 years ago so that you can compare the two. But this is all nice and shaded, and it's really beautiful here in the mornings. So we come around, and this was another tight turn, the sun working on it. There's the little tree that I transplanted. This little tree, hopefully, in a few years, will grow up to be like this, which is the same type of tree. Both of these trees came from seeds from the neighbor's tree. So we come around the corner here, the back of the property, and you can see these plants have died off now for the summer here along the back wall. And this is the summit, or the highest point of the layout. So these yards are pretty small in my neighborhood because we live around an urban lake, and so a lot of acreage goes to maintaining the size and shape of the lake, which is pretty cool. But nevertheless, the yards tend to be small and lower maintenance, which is fine with me. Here's our little lemon tree, and did a little walkway on a previous video. So coming around here, there's a little patio area and the raised bed that I put in there. My wife loves lavender, although it's just about gone now for this year. We'll have to put something else more robust in there for the summer. We've already had temperatures into the 112, 113 mark, so the plants take a beating, and so you have to put some friendly plantings that can handle the heat in there. Come around the turn, this is the tank where I store water for the steam engine, and it's just about full of water. We had really a plentiful rain last winter. And here's another view, a little walkway up to the railroad. There's a little fountain. That's some of the best money I ever spent in the backyard, this little fountain. All sorts of birds love water in this summer especially, and so they hang out and congregate, and it's kind of fun watching all the birds. And I got my first scorpion sting ever, messing around without wearing gloves down below this fountain here. Last year, I think it was. I've been in Arizona since '83, and that was the first really animal sting or animal bite that I ever got. So I can check that off my bucket list now. And I put in a little bridge. Every railroad has to have some sort of an overpass, right? This is a little blood orange tree. And I've done individual videos on a lot of the features on this railroad. So if you have the patience, you can go back and check the progress out. I try to document each phase along the way So if you had any interest in how a railroad like this is done, you could find out in some detail. All right. Passing over here next to the mighty air conditioner, which is mandatory equipment now here in the Phoenix area. We've got plenty of hot heat island effect with all the concrete and everything else going on in this urban area. So here's a little shed that I built, which is a shed slash tunnel. Every railroad has to have a tunnel, all right? So this is where I store the train. I'm so lazy that if it takes too much trouble getting the thing out, I'd never use it. So I have to have the train ready to go and always hooked up to the charger. And I even have a little vacuum there and some little storage. There's only so much floor space in here, so I have the little flat car that I built. It's so lightweight that I just park it up along the wall. And when I want the long train, I can just pull this off and set it on the track. But this little shed keeps the train safe. Rodney keeps the rain off his head and the sun from bleaching him out. And everything's all ready to go. And it's technically kind of not kosher with the HOA because the top of it goes above the fence line, but I checked with my neighbor and she didn't seem to mind. And it's far enough from the street that I don't think it should be a huge problem. Here's a little oddity. It's the front of a speeder that I built. A few little parts are missing off of it, but that was for a 7.5 inch gauge speeder. Picture on the level here. Okay, moving out of the shed into Ladderville here. Now this side yard has gone through a few iterations. So before I started thinking about the railroad, this was absolutely jam-packed with junk. I mean, you could really not even walk through here. I had storage, a couple of boats, just an absolute mess. So before I could really think about a railroad, I had to get the side yard all cleaned out and find a home for everything. And then once I started the railroad, I had all the ballast dumped in the driveway, but due to concerns with the HOA, I ended up filling this whole area with ballast. I'm going to look back and see if I can find an old picture of that, but this was just jam-packed, filled with ballast, and couldn't even walk through here. And here, this is where I store the temporary track. Go across the driveway. Late in the afternoon, in the summer, the sun is high enough and it comes blasting in here. So I try to protect things here from that hot sun. Down here onto the slab and through this gate out into the front. And to make a loop, then I put the temporary track in. Well, I hope you found that interesting. That's how you get a railroad done around your small home. And Rodney and I appreciate you taking the time to check us out. Thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you right here next time.